of yesteryear. This morning we're doing several videos on the famous Rabbanim from the Mishpachat family of Alfandari, really, really great Turkish rabbinic family in of itself. And now I'm going to concentrate the video on Rabbi Haim Alfandari, very, very great rabbi. He was born actually in English year 1660 and passed away in 1733. He was a great rabbi. He was a posek, rendered various different Jewish law decisions in of itself from Istanbul. He was part of one of the great rabbis of his generation and was author of various different Torah books, including the famous book, this Esh Dat. Let's explore some of the highlights of the great rabbi's life. Now, he actually came from great rabbinic auspices. His father's name was Rabbi Yitzchak Raphael, very, very great rabbi in of itself. He happened to be himself, I believe, the son of Rabbi Haim Alfandari Z'tl. Rabbi Haim Alfandari the elder, that happened to be his grandfather, and he would learn under the auspices of from his uncle Rabbi Yaakov Alfandari, another great rabbi we've mentioned about on various occasions before. He happened to be one of the great rabbis of Bקושטא of Istanbul in his time and the author of the Motzel Me'esh. In fact, just to state, Rabbi Haim Alfandari Z'tl was also a great rabbi. He was also a Rosh Yeshiva, this is his grandfather, in Istanbul, and the author of the book, the Magid Mereshit, I believe. So very, very great rabbanim in of itself. I think that Rabbi Haim Alfandari was in touch with many great rabbis of his generation, including, I believe, the Maharam ben Chaviv, or Rabbi Moshe ben Rabbi Shlomo ibn Haviv, very, very great rabbi who was, I believe, a Rishon LeZion at one stage and a Rosh Yeshiva in Jerusalem. Within regards to, let's say, the kashrut, within regards to Sefer Torah, Torah scrolls, or tefillin, within regards to finding maybe if there was something that might be incorrect within regards to it, what is then, and there's a correspondence, I think, from the Magid Mereshit featured in it. He was among the great rabbis of his generation. Rabbi Haim Alfandari II was in of itself. They actually say that the Chidah, the famous Rabbi Chaim Yosef David Azulay, actually quotes a quote in Hebrew, Mofat Dorenu Harav Mufla Maharcha. Really great, just stating about what a great rabbi is. That was an acronym for Rabbi Haim Alfandari Z'tl. What great rabbis they were in of itself. Interesting enough, Rabbi Eliezer Nahum, another very great rabbi, he would also highly compliment within regards to Rabbi Haim. I think inside his book, the Derech HaKodesh, very, very great Torah book in of itself, he mentioned, and it was actually many people praised the greatness of him. I think the book was called the Derech HaKodesh, and let's just say there was many great books that had his testimony in of itself. And it's actually interesting. He would actually correspond with many other great rabbis, including Rabbi Yosef ben Yitzchak al-Mushnino, who happened to be one of the great rabbis, I think the chief rabbi actually of Belgrade in his day, Rabbi Yaakov Sasson, the author of the book, the Maran Chabib, if I'm not mistaken, from very interesting enough, and many other great rabbi, Abram ben David Yitzchaki, another great rabbi I think we just spoke about just recently. He happened to be a Rishon LeZion between the years 1715 to 1722. He also corresponded in various different halakhic matters with another famous rabbi, Rabbi Eliezer ibn Shanji, very, very great rabbi. He happened to be himself the Abed in head of the Jewish court in Bקושטא in Istanbul, respectively. So he was very, very, let's just say, very corresponding with many different great rabbis in his time. And he would actually, while he was over there, he wrote letters and correspondence in halacha with not just Rabbi Eliezer ibn Shanji, also with his close relative Rabbi Eliyahu Alfandari, and they would both basically speak on the highest, let's just say, with regards to questions, speak about the highest level of Torah-related topics in of itself. Then he would later on, I believe, go to Egypt. He would travel to Egypt at one stage of his career, and Mitzrayim, naturally we call that in Hebrew, and over there he would, I believe, visit the house where Rabbi Chaim Vital was actually living. He happened to be the Talmid of the famous Ari HaKadosh, very, very great rabbi, interestingly enough. The Rabbi Chaim Vital, just so that you know, passed away in the year 1620. Interesting enough. So he would spend time in Egypt. He would visit Chaim Vital, and in his house he saw a manuscript, I think, of the Zohar, various different corrections, let's just say, in of itself. Rabbi Alfandari printed a new edition of the Zohar, reported over, and he would actually meet various different great rabbis in Egypt, including, I believe, among there, the famous rabbi. His name was Rabbi Yeshua Shababo, was a very, very great rabbi of Egypt, and I think also spent a time in Tzfat in of itself, was one of the great rabbis of Mitzrayim. And I think he was author, it was mentioned in the Ginat Veradim book in of itself. Then he will go to the land of Israel and settle in Tzfat, Tzfat being one of the holy cities of Israel. He would actually be over there. I think it was tough times over there in Tzfat at that point in time, where there was, unfortunately, I think at that point in time, there was harsh authorities over there, making it difficult for the Jewish community in of itself. And he corresponded with another great rabbi, Rabbi Raphael Michael Melamed, at that point in time, and other great rabbis such as Rabbi Moshe Sasson and Rabbi Abraham Moziri. Many, they would send, I think, Shluchei Rabbanan to various different areas, and I think including, they would visit a place in Italy called Pisa, if I'm not mistaken, near the Tuscany region in of itself. Later, he would actually make a move now to Jerusalem. And it's actually interesting. Rabbi Yisrael Meir Mizrahi will actually quote the arrival of the great rabbi inside the city in his book, the Pri Haaretz, famously in of itself. He would spend many days in Jerusalem, and very much Jerusalem being another one of the holy cities in Israel, very much making his, let's say, mark inside the area in of itself. And I think he passed away, it was, I'm not too sure the exact date, but it's reported over that was in the month of Iyar in the year 1733. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, over there. He would have great students. Among his son, I think Rabbi Shlomo Alfandari would go on to become a great judge in Bקושטא, in Istanbul, respectively. And a famous rabbi, Rabbi Gedalia Chayon, who's very, very famous, most notably because he was, let's say, one of the famous Shluchei Rabbanans of Jerusalem and the founder of the famous Kabbalistic yeshiva, Yeshivat Bet El in Jerusalem, considered one of the great rabbis of the 18th century, respectively, in Israel. He wrote great Torah books, including the Esh Dat, which comprised of various drushim, sermons within regards to Torah in of itself. Interesting enough. Then there was Kuntras Kedusha, Debate Shimasha. I hope I pronounced it correctly. Another great Torah book in of itself. I think it was printed in it was also printed in the Rabbi Yosef, I think, of the Mari Katzvi, if I'm not mistaken. Then there was a Derech HaKodesh, which was on the Mishnayot, on the Asara Kedushot. Interesting enough, I think it was printed at the end of the book of the Magid Mereshit. Then there was a Seret Mishmera. This was printed in Kush in Hebrew Yetaf Pei, which is on Tanyot, on fasts, of Erev Rosh Chodesh, before the new month. Then there was a Haggaot al Sefer B'nei Chayai. Interesting enough, this was, I think, from Rabbi Haim Al-Ghazi, Rabbi Haim Al-Ghazi, who was another great rabbi we mentioned about on various occasions before. He happened to be a judge of Izmir, respectively, and the great rabbi over there, respectively, and naturally that was the book he authored. Then there was Haggaot Orachaim al Kuntra Sharit Hanimtsa'a of Rabbi Yosef Katzvi. Another great, so really left great works. We can add some more information within regards to him. Most notably, I didn't mention this at the beginning, he would live at one window of time in Bursa in Turkey. I think in 1681 he would actually meet another famous rabbi, right? Abraham Miguel Cardozo, another great rabbi we've spoken about before. I think he would actually visit him in Constantinople also, where there was Torah studies, and there was a, let's just say, correspondence, for example, with regards to this. I think there was other great rabbis he would also, let's just say, converse with at one point in time. He studied, when you just going back to his time in Egypt, he would study Rabbi Isaac Luria's writings over there, which was in the possession, I think, at that point in time, of Rabbi Moshe Z'tl, the grandson of Rabbi Haim Z'tl. So he came to the house, just to clarify, of Rabbi Haim Z'tl. At that stage in time, Rabbi Haim Z'tl passed away in 1620. So this was many, many years later. I believe at that point in time, Rabbi Moshe Z'tl was over there. And also it's interesting, he wrote the book, the Kedushat the Shimshi book, the booklet, let's just say in itself, when he lived in Tzfat, I believe, which is interesting enough. He would return in 1710 to Constantinople, and very interesting enough, and was very well traveled. He actually, I think his name appeared on the list of Tzfat scholars in 1722. That was what was reported over. Now, just add on with regards to the famous book, Esh Dat, it was printed, I think, in 1718. It was actually written on at the end, and really, really great books in of itself. And please, everyone, learn more about the famous Alfandari family We are a community here. We're learning about many of the great rabbis of yesteryear over here. We've covered already 650 great rabbis inside this series. Please, everyone, subscribe to the channel, like the videos, share the videos, and if you happen to be related to any of the great rabbanim, please send me an email. I would love to hear more. So wishing you all brachot from Israel. Take care and be well.